ready for episode 17 of the Survive and Thrive Challenge. I'm Laura Brandao, the president of AFR, and I would like to introduce you all to my wonderful challengers this evening. From New Jersey, we have George Schultz, the vice president of client development at Covius. From Maine, we have Kate Kate, say it for me.
DiBiase.
DiBiase, there we go. She is a senior loan officer at North Star Mortgage. And from California, we have Hope Bourman, the divisional president at High Trust Coaching. Well, for all those first timers out there, let me tell you how we got to week 17. So essentially, beginning of March, my good friend Seppi, the CEO of Tego, and myself were having a conversation about all the craziness that was happening with shelter in place. When she reached out to me during that time, she thought that she would come to me to feel safe and secure. And I said, oh, Seppi, you have no idea what is happening in the mortgage world. And at that moment, we decided, well, hey, if you're going through some major change and I am too, why don't we come together and go on Facebook and share this? Well, that was 17 weeks ago. And each week we bring on other people to share those same changes and from their perspective. So let's jump right in. George, we all went through this shock. It's the middle of March. You know, we kind of had an idea of some things that were going on, but we really didn't get the true magnitude of it until the shelter in place happened. So tell us, what was that initial reaction and how did it affect you?
Well, first, thank you, Laura, and to Seppi for having me here. It's just a great platform, and I think it's bringing a lot of positivity to not only the industry, but to people who are watching that are outside. So thank you. When I first, got the word that the shelter in place and that the virus was starting to spread and be real, I still was, one of those individuals that probably was, I'll see you in a couple of weeks type. And so it really wasn't real for me at that point. However, that quickly changed once the shelter in place did happen. And it was at that point that you really start to see the gravity of what was happening across the country and the world. And then you start looking inwards and start saying, well, how's my family and who's susceptible? And I'm unfortunate that I have a father who's in a nursing facility, so I was concerned about him. I have a nurse. My sister's a nurse. I also have a daughter who's autoimmune deficient. So all those types of things. It was an emotional type of roller coaster of, how do we keep everybody safe and what do we do? So that was my original. And then, you start contact tracing yourself because I'm a person that traveled extensively, 2-3 times a week. And at that point you start saying, well, where was I? And, as New York started to publish some pretty dire numbers, I was in New York at the end of February, beginning of March, and on the subway. And so it was at that point, I'm like, oh boy, I'm right in the middle of that. And so, and then, I have my family members that I have to worry about potentially infecting. So, it was tough at the beginning. And, we've had our emotional roller coaster as far as, dealing with the isolation and kids in school and how do we get them to engage in their schoolwork and continue some type of social interactions with friends. So it's
George, you just said a lot of things there. I mean, you literally, you're nursing home, immune deficiency, you being, out and about, and then dealing with all of this homeschooling, you've got homeschooling in there, and your particular job, you traveled a lot, right? Before, like you would go to conferences and you would be meeting with clients. So what happened with your job also? How was that affected?
It was greatly affected. Because I'm an individual who relied on face-to-face communication and, meetings and presentations in front, of many different C-level kind of individuals, and trying to pivot into a different role was certainly difficult and challenging. For somebody who's worked as long as I have in this industry, in a way that I had worked in it, which was face to face, and trying now to, change that perspective and try to change the way that I interact with individuals. So, it's the social media has certainly helped bridge that for me. I actually was fortunate enough that I made it my 2020 goal to become more visible, through social media and specifically like on LinkedIn. And so, being a part of networking calls, just check-in calls has been really great. But it helped me because I had already started that process of becoming more socially aware, and through social media, that I was able to kind of just continue those goals.
That's great. That's great. And I'm curious, I mean, you had a lot you were adjusting to, okay? How long did it take you from, okay, that initial shock and reaction to a period of time where you were kind of like, okay, I've got this under control as best as I can, and I'm settling into this? How long did that process take you?
Yeah, it took it took a long time. I mean, it took the better part of, a month to get my understanding as to, okay, well, how are we going to do this? And a lot of that had to do with how I was and who I was communicating with, because, my primary audiences are lenders, direct lenders. And, lenders were going through their own issues, as you kind of mentioned in the beginning, right? You had no idea what's going on in the mortgage industry until you try to contact somebody and say, hey, would you like to change your process?
Oh, I don't think so. They were changing enough. We had enough.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and trying to take 100% of their staff from an office into a work at home solution. So I got a lot of "what are you, crazy" comments, but it still opened up the opportunities to have conversation, and that is really what I ended up landing at, which is just have the conversation of how things going, and we'll have a conversation when the time is right. And so now it seems like people have certainly gotten used to being at home, and are now really ready to kind of have a conversation about the future, because no matter where you are in this industry, you've got a very busy future.
Yes, I definitely.
Regardless of servicing and origination, it's really busy.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, all right, Kate. What was happening in your world? I know you are a very busy originator. Congratulations. Yes. I know you do a lot of business. So what was happening in your world at this time?
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a change. And it was funny too, because, a lot of people were, quarantining at home, which I did, but I actually would also quarantine myself at the office because I was the only one here. Like everybody else has kids, so everybody else was quarantining. So I was either quarantining at my house or, barricading myself in the office.
That works.
Because I felt like I just had to get out of the house, and away from my husband for like 5 minutes.
We need a little me time here.
Yeah, little me time. So it was great to come to the office, but there was a shift. I mean, I had a couple buyers that backed out just because of the uncertainty. Just, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm kind of freaked out. I'm going to wait. So that happened, with a couple people. And, all the changes came through. I all of a sudden had an FHA loan that was in the pipeline that I couldn't do. Yeah, so it was scary. I've been doing this for 10 years, and it was definitely a time where I was like, a couple deals start falling apart, and then I'm just like, oh man, like, I hope this is going to be okay. I just tried to stay positive and encourage, like, even my borrowers, like, don't worry, like, we're all going to get through this together kind of thing. But it was definitely was a little anxiety provoking, because just wondering, what the future holds and what the changes are going to be.
Absolutely. So what did you do to keep connected to your borrowers and families that you were helping in order to kind of guide them through this process? Like, how did you keep them calm?
Yeah, so I just wanted to focus on, like, even focusing on past clients. Like, AIM interviewed me, and I told them about something that I did that was really cool, because everybody was stuck at home. So I found a local store that made goodie boxes for me with a whole bunch of just like snacks and stuff, like really cool stuff, like big boxes. And I had them just do a bunch of them up, and I put a post on Facebook and said, if you're a past or current client of mine and you need a little pick me up, drop a comment below, and within the next, couple days, you'll have a surprise at your door.
Oh.
So I spent like an entire day Thursday, an entire Friday, all day Saturday and Sunday, so 4 days driving around, just leaving goodies on my clients' doorsteps with a little note, Kate at North Star, love you, thinking about you. So I was doing stuff like that made me feel really good, like that I was helping, and it kept me like connected, with all my clients and stuff. So I tried to do stuff like that, and I felt like it was really cool and really helpful.
Well, that is a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it, because I think we all can learn from that story, right? Because you also did a couple of things. Number one, you stayed connected to your past clients, which is glorious, and great relationships, and that's wonderful. But you also, one of the hardest things I think all of us had to adjust to is not being able to control everything. I think all of us, we always want to control everything, and we want to, be able to do that. And I think we all learned we had to give up some control, right? Yeah. But you did something that you actually could control. Mm-hmm. You actually could do it and positive and spread joy. Yeah. So I love that. That is absolutely amazing. Now, I know from last week's guest, Lee had mentioned that you guys actually had to go through a whole transition of actually going paperless and being able to work remote and stuff. So that was a big transition, I'm assuming, also.
Yes, because if you saw the level of printing that Lee and I have done over the years, I mean,
oh no, you're killing trees in Maine? Come on.
We would print emails. It's so bad. We don't do that. We don't do that anymore.
Good.
Nope. We're paperless now.
Yeah, you're in a beautiful spot. We want those trees. That's for sure.
Yes, we're paperless now.
Yeah, see? Look at that. Look at that. Awesome. All right, wonderful. All right, Hope, what was happening in your world?
Well, it's interesting because we have 3 levels at High Trust Coaching. We have our elite group, and once and twice a year we do a retreat. So just before COVID had hit, we were in Savannah, Georgia, with all of our elite members for a 3-day retreat. As we were flying back in, and I was a little nervous whether or not I was going to be able to get back home, which was not a problem. But I was very proactive, in listening to what we were supposed to be doing as far as cleaning your area and at the airports, not touching anything, keeping your hands off your face. And I kept thinking of my father, actually, because as children, he used to always tell us, take your hands off your face, take your hands off your face. So it was like, it's kind of reminded me of my dad a little bit, take your hands off your face. So we came back to the office that Monday, and we had an executive meeting, and we kind of said, do we really need to be at the office? And we kind of said no. So we packed up our team, and basically moved everybody remote. We are an events company and a coaching company. So the events side, that was the scary part. What are we going to do? We've been doing these events for 27 years. How are we going to make that shift? And I'll tell you later how we made that shift. But coaching was just as strong as ever. It was, we have coaching members all over the United States, Canada, and Australia. So it was, I got a real clear picture of what was happening globally. Yeah. And how everybody was dealing with it. And the good news is it's very busy in the mortgage industry. Our primary business is focused in the mortgage industry. And the bad news is that everybody got pushed remote. So it's been a lot of redirecting, but I have a home office, and I just jumped right in and off to the races and took care. It was really much more focused on taking care of our coaching members. Yep. And taking care of everybody else. And because I was fine. Everything was good. Family is good. Neighborhood is good. Everyone is safe. And so I just kind of went about, taking care of our coaching members.
And they probably need you even more, right? I would assume that those members actually need that guidance and support, or the network community.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation around them being remote.
Yeah.
As Kate was saying earlier about, she was reminding me about her being away from her husband, for a little while during the day. I have one client, and I won't name any names, but she said that she's going to the office and she's in the office by herself. And I said, well, why are you not just working from home? And she said, my husband said that I type too loud. She said, and it makes him uncomfortable, which makes me uncomfortable. So she says, so I just go to the office and bang away.
Yeah.
So it was really cute, very cute. It was very sweet. But yeah, there was a lot because we had, we had support people, processors, loan officers, underwriters. Everybody was remote, and as originators and leaders, they know how to discipline themselves. But we spent a lot of time in helping them help their teams work remotely.
Yeah.
And doing team huddles and that type of thing.
That's
on a daily
great.
basis. Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's awesome. Okay. All right, guys. So we made it through. We're getting used to this new normal here. Now fast forward 17 weeks later. Now I want to hear, what have you learned from this experience? What have you, like, I already heard one thing that Kate, obviously she said now they're not the paperless, we already know that's one of the things, but what is something that you're like, I'm not going back. This works and this is good. And regardless of what happens, I'm going to keep doing it. What are some lessons learned? George?
Well, one lesson learned, I learned that my beard, I usually shave, is as gray as my hair. So
You would have predicted that, George.
Yeah, I know. I tried to grow the really grizzly beard, but I got about a couple weeks in. I was like, this isn't going to work for me. So that's fun. But, the one thing I certainly have tapped into is, because of the time that has been afforded us, is really connecting with people I haven't really spoke to in a long time, whether they be old friends, old colleagues. So I've really made it a point to reconnect with people because, it seemed like my friend group was the road and those people at conferences that I saw a lot, or clients and those types of things. And being, absent that, it was, trying to, connect with people and get that human element, because that was important. So I think, moving forward, I certainly will take that to heart and just, continue to make those personal connections.
I love that. And it's interesting. I've heard that numerous times on the show.
Yeah.
Like, many people have actually said that. So that is a blessing. It is.
Yeah,
I also have
is.
to ask you, going back to something you said earlier, when you said you made it a 2020 goal to become more active on social media, I want to hear a little bit of how that has helped you, because I know it's funny, we didn't know each other. And then we have connected on LinkedIn and now are going back and forth.
Yes,
So
no, that's a perfect example. Yeah. I'm an outgoing person when needed. So it's like I'm a closet introvert. So
introvert. Okay.
I'm a closet introvert, and so the concept of doing this, in the beginning of this year, I would have been petrified. Like, no way I'm doing something like that. It's just not in my nature.
Mm-hmm.
But it's drawn it out of me, and it's something that I'm starting to enjoy doing and having. I'm branching out into different verticals and being able to just have fun with it.
That's great. And that's wonderful. Yeah. And I think everyone needs to realize that this is the world. Regardless of pandemics or anything else, it's 2020. I mean, the world of doing social media and being on camera and sharing yourself, that's the world we live in. And people connect to you when you show your authentic self and who you are. People want to get to know you. They do. And they want to do business with people that they can connect to. So it really is the world we live in. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Don't stop. Keep going.
I had to rip that Band-Aid off.
Yes, keep going. All right. Kate, what have you learned that you're going to keep doing?
Yeah. So a couple things come to mind. So the first thing is, I just have a whole new sense of gratitude. Like, for example, I used to always go to spin class randomly on Sundays. And I can't even tell you the number of Sundays I would go, I don't feel like it. Oh, I don't know. And then once I couldn't go to my favorite spin class, I was like, what I wouldn't give. And like, I remember they're doing it outside now. So my first day back, the spin instructor knows me and she's like, Kate, stop smiling. Cause I just couldn't stop smiling. Like I was just so happy to be at spin class. So just not taking things for granted, you know? And then the other thing that was kind of an eye opener for me is I used to spend so much of my day attending all my closings. Like, and when you're doing the amount of volume that I do, it's really hard to be everywhere at once. And I would stress myself out, like, I have to be to this closing and then I have to go to this closing. And believe it or not, it's actually been, I feel like I'm actually able to do a better job by making sure my clients are prepared and by not running around all day to my closings, by spending more time in the office, going over things with them, you know, on the phone, email, text message. Like, I just feel, I'm looking at in the future, the things that I want to keep that I've implemented. And I think I'm going to have to be more, I think I'm going to have to figure out how I just have to let go of going to every one of my closings. Like, I'm just going to have to let that go.
So I'm curious, what would you do instead? Like if I was to say, okay, everything is back to normal, Kate, you know, where you can go,
right?
What would you do instead?
I think I'm going to have to look at where the closing is, because there's some days that I'm driving 2 hours away, 30 minutes, 45, you know, I lose half of my day going to one closing. So what I've been doing and what I'll continue to do is I've been sending a gift. You know, how nice is it for the client to get, you know, a little gift after closing mailed to the new house? Like, you know, I'm doing like my favorite box of chocolates or, you know, whatever it might be, they love it. So I'm doing things like that. And clients have been understanding. Like I've come to find out that a lot of people are like, well, I didn't expect you to be there. Like, anyway. So I'm like, oh, okay, well.
Wow. So that's great. And that's wonderful that both things are wonderful. The realizing how we took certain things for granted. And now, like you said, you were sitting there. I would have loved a picture of her smiling during her spin class. Like, you know, so excited to be in spin class. So that's great for all of us, those little things that we really should have been a little grateful for. That I think that's wonderful. And then that's great that now you've recognized, well, is that really the best use of my time?
Right.
Traveling around Maine, you know, going to sit at a closing.
Right.
And of course, the gift to the family, that's wonderful. And that's something they will remember and they will cherish. So that's great. All right. Awesome. All right, Hope, tell us about, I'm assuming it's something to do with the events. So did you?
You know, a couple of things. Yeah, so the coaching remained the same. And, you know, I'm an early riser. So one of the things that I learned about myself is that I'm naturally an early riser. I'm not getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning because the alarm goes off. I get up at 5 in the morning because that's when I wake up. And so I still started my day the same way, but I was outside. So soon I was waiting for the sun to rise, and as soon as the sun was up, I was out the door and was able to go and do a couple mile walk and then come back and then do my whole day. And I just realized just how much I love that. Absolutely love that part. And I, also kind of learned that, how much of a social animal I am. I love people. I love people. I love being around people. I love, the connection. And so I think that's probably the one thing that if I wasn't coaching and talking to people all day long, back to back, it probably would have affected me a lot greater, much greater. But it didn't, because I was on the phone talking to people every single day, all day long. And in between time doing Zoom calls with the team and Zoom calls with, and that type of thing. So we shifted very, very quickly. And the events company, we did the same thing. Todd Duncan's our CEO, and we shifted, and we have an annual event that we do every year, which is our Sales Mastery. We've been doing it for 27 years. We normally do it in San Diego, and we already pre-booked it, all these things have to be pre-booked, prepaid. And so that was a big revenue that we were walking away from. And we have shifted, we're doing it digital, first time ever in the history of Sales Mastery. We're doing it digital. It's going to be amazing. And we're super excited about it, but it's like, wow, it's like we're making this whole entire shift and we're doing the exact event. So I'm really very, very proud of how quickly we've been able to shift and adjust. And I'm very proud of everybody in the mortgage industry. Sincerely, I'm very, very proud of how quickly they have, they've made the shift, they've made the move, and servicing their clients. And, yes, we had, I was reading Chrisman every day. And boy, nobody wasted anybody any time, and and saying, okay, we're not doing this program anymore. We're not doing this program anymore. This, all the criteria have all now gone up. It was just interesting how quickly they moved on that. It was really interesting to watch.
Yeah, that was what was going on in my world. As we were going into shelter in place, it was executive meetings of, I think we need to raise the FICO score. I think we need to get rid of this program. Okay, how soon? Oh, how about like immediately? Okay, we'll implement that. No problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was, and the thing is, it was the right thing to do.
You had to.
No, the market stabilized.
But I'm going to tell you what was different this time. Okay, and I've said this a few times on Survive and Thrive. The difference this time is that when this started to happen, we literally came together on phone calls, the leaders of all the lenders in the country, and we came together and said, guys, this is what has to happen. And we all said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. What are you doing about VOEs? What are you doing about closings? What are you doing about appraisals? That didn't happen when the crash happened. But this time it was different. This time the industry came together, and this time everybody acted fast, and everybody said, we need to do this. It's the right thing to do. And the originators, my God, I mean, they didn't skip a beat. They kind of swallowed and took their lumps when they had to initially, but then they got past it. And they just said, okay, if the new FICO is this, that's what it is. I'll go out and I'll raise some credit and maybe get some credit repair, or I'll figure out how to get past this. So you're correct, Hope. Impressive what our industry did. Absolutely phenomenal. So yes, we all did a great job.
Yeah, how nimble we were. It was almost as if, did it feel, Laura, to you, it's almost as if we were preparing ourselves for the last few years for something like this, going paperless, being, having so much, e-sign, having so much, being
that right?
virtual. It almost kind of felt like it was just the last step that needed to happen, and it just what it felt like to me, at least.
I mean, look at it, right? Look at remote online notarization, right? I mean, if you said remote online notarization 6 months ago or 9 months ago, everybody would be like, yeah, that's in the future. That'll happen in like 25. And now look it. I mean, it's happening. It's real. This is live, and it's fascinating that it all happens so fast. I mean, at first, like that.
Yeah.
Like that. So it's very impressive. And to your point, if this had occurred 10 years ago, I don't know. I don't know what would have happened if it was 10 years ago. Yeah. But you're right. Leading up to this, we were preparing. We were going paperless. We were going digital. We were e-signatures, all of that. So yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, guys, this was fascinating. You did an amazing job. You were awesome. Love hearing from everybody. And now I get to hear who gets to join us for every time I say it. Week 18? Okay. Yeah. Week 18. All right, George, who do we have?
Well, I'm very excited and privileged to nominate Kim Hoffman. She's the COO of Envy Mortgage. Yes.
Oh my God. Love it. Oh, I love Kim. Can't wait to hear.
Wonderful
I know a little bit of her story, meaning I know some of her transition struggle, meaning of I know what she accomplished.
Yes.
So I can't wait to share it with the world because it's a great story.
Yeah. Awesome.
Awesome. Wonderful. Kate, who do we have?
Yes, I'm going to nominate Danielle Stumper.
Oh, yeah.
At North Star.
Oh, awesome. All right, Danielle, can't wait to hear her story. Can't wait to hear all her insights, and awesome person. Wonderful. Hope, who are we going to have?
Well, I have decided that I think it would be great to have a real estate agent's perspective. So I have several very, very close real estate agent relationships that are all top producers. So I'm going to nominate one of them. And if it's okay, I'd rather it be a surprise. I just want to give them a little bit of a heads up before I nominate them. But it will definitely be a real estate agent.
I can't wait to hear the realtor perspective because we actually have not heard that perspective. So looking forward to hearing that, and anyone that you choose, I'm sure will be amazing. All right, guys, this has been great. Be well.
Thank you.
Everything well with everyone. All the best, and take care, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.